month, the first floor of the Clayton Center lights up with a new exhibit of colorful artwork featuring talented local artists. In March, the walls were lined with the exceptional work of two women who've lived and traveled all over the U.S. and Europe. Ann Campbell of West End in Moore County came to North Carolina 30 years ago. Born in the Big Apple, she's been painting since childhood, focusing mostly on creating beautiful watercolors like these. But we begin with Nancy Ping-Robbins of Bailey in Nash County. She's a native of Tennessee, but has lived all over the world and enjoys painting in oil and acrylic. Clayton Visual Arts President Larry Strevick spoke to Ping-Robbins at the free artists reception held at the Clayton Center each month. He asked how she ended up in the Tar Heel State in 1974.
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I went to Indiana University to study music at their famous School of Music and got my degree in music and married my first husband. Then we went to Germany, and I spent 4.5 years in Germany where I got to see a lot of art and decided I just had to paint. So even though I was in music as a career, I started painting in Germany. And it kind of was like that all the rest of my life. After Germany, we moved back to Indiana and then to Colorado and finally back to North Carolina.
Ping-Robbins grew up with a father who taught her the basics of painting at an early age. When she was just 11, she produced a set of 4 still-life oil paintings on round wooden plaques as a present for her mother. But music took precedence during her teen and college years, and she became a professional pianist, which led her to make her home in Germany.
Actually, a musicologist, which is a music historian, and I taught music history at various colleges, including UNCW, which is why I first came to North Carolina.
But you do play piano?
Oh, yes.
Do you still play at all?
Oh, yes.
Wonderful.
I have 2 degrees in piano, and I'm also playing folk instruments, and so currently now I'm playing harp and banjo and fiddle and...
Well, you're just a lady of all kinds
hammered
of
dulcimer, lap dulcimer, recorders.
Ping-Robbins steeped herself in the great artworks of Europe, visiting museums in many different countries. She counts a Picasso exhibit as pivotal to her artistic development.
Well, there was a major Picasso exhibit in Frankfurt, and I was lucky enough to be in Frankfurt. So every week I would put the children in the base nursery and just take off and go on my own around town to see the museums and things. And of course we traveled to Amsterdam and saw the famous Rembrandt things there, and went to Paris, to the Louvre, went to Italy and saw all of the great things in Florence before the flood. So they were still there. And all the great artworks in Rome and Venice and so on. So it was wonderful.
But I read in the newspaper that Picasso really kind of set your sails in a different direction. Is that correct?
It did. It did. I wanted pictures on my wall, but I couldn't afford to buy Picasso, so I decided I was going to make my own.
Make your own.
Ping-Robbins describes to Larry Strevick how she began one particular piece by painting strips of different colors, one at a time.
And after I was finished, I sort of saw a face in there, so I enhanced it a little bit to bring it out. And it looked like a woman. So I called this La Femme, which means it's French for woman. I don't know why I had to use French, but.
I see it. There's an eye and a mouth.
Another eye, hair.
Yes, yes.
Like Medusa with all of the strands of
I'm glad you pointed that out to me because I didn't see.
She studied with Bob Rankin of Raleigh, and her abstract artwork caught Strevick's eye. He asked her to describe a piece called Mosquitoes.
It could be called anything you want it to, really. And so usually I don't like to give a title to an abstract picture because I'm limiting the concept to only my concept. But the reason I like to do abstract art is because people have their own ideas about it. And I couldn't think of a title, so I thought, well, all of these things kind of look like those huge mosquitoes that take aim at you. But you have another idea about it entirely, don't you?
Well, right down here, there's a red and a blue and a yellow and a white circle. It looks like a target. Okay. I said I could just envision my arm. That's my arm, and there comes that mosquito for it. But it's very interesting. Most of your work is acrylic, is that correct?
Well, let's say I started out in oil, and then when acrylic was invented, that's how old I am, I switched to acrylic. But I do have a transition painting that's half oil, half acrylic, and I'm still doing some of that. But I have one or two up there on the other landing that the background is acrylic, and I painted oil on top of it. Just
Where could we see more of your work? You have another show coming up. I know you've done quite a few shows all over the county and Raleigh and the whole works.
Well, I primarily put things in regularly in Wilson, at the Wilson Art Center.
Oh, I see.
But usually 2 or 3 pieces, and I've had a couple of shows there. I've had a show at the Nash Art Center. I've had a show at Bel Air Artisans in Rocky Mount. I've had shows in Lillington and Harnett County. And I did have some things in that, in a place in Dunn, a little gallery. And there are some other little galleries where I have things. But I'm going to have a show, the next show I have planned is going to be at the Royal Bean Coffee House in Raleigh, on Hillsborough Street, right across from Meredith. So.
Do you have the date on that? To give you a free plug here.
May 18th through June 28th. Yeah. So you can have something
well
good to
with
drink and enjoy looking at pictures.
Well, I wish you well with that, and we certainly appreciate your bringing work in.
Ann Campbell is no stranger to the Clayton Center. She was featured in a solo exhibit in 2009, but this time brought all new works to display. Married 46 years to the radio operator she met on a cruise, she's traveled all over the country, living in Vermont, California, and Oregon, studying at various schools, including the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, Syracuse University, Oregon State University, and the University of Vermont.
Well, I did. I went to Pratt Institute, and I studied commercial illustration. And I went in there, and they didn't know what to tell me to take, and I took my portfolio in, and they said, well, why don't you try commercial illustration? But nowadays, I had to earn a living, so I had to get away from commercial illustration. I ended up being a billing clerk. But I continued to go to school, art school. I went to Pratt Institute, and I went there for 3 years. Went out to, well, I traveled. I went to Honduras and Cuba on a cruise and met my husband, who he was a radio operator on the ship.
A widow now, Campbell has 3 children, all married, 4 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren. She wanted to thank one of them especially for helping her put on this show.
I spent 25 years up in Vermont. My oldest daughter, Pat, that's been helping me. She's done all the labels for these paintings, and she's helped me with my framing, and God bless her. I couldn't have put this show on without her. That's Patricia Campbell. Anyway, she's with me tonight, and this is a great honor for me to be able to exhibit my work here. And
honored to have you.
I'm coming up to date. I am still on the faculty for Sand Hills Community College, and I teach drawing and painting. I've been with Sand Hills Community College for continuing ed. I'm in my 26th year.
That's great. Sand Hill is down near Pinehurst, is that correct?
That's right, it's in Pinehurst. And I was elected to exhibit one of my paintings. It was one of the paintings chosen to be exhibited at the offices in Raleigh as one of the artists from all the community colleges in North Carolina. And it was a great honor. I've been chosen twice now.
That is an honor.
Chosen from Sand Hills to represent the college.
Campbell also began painting at an early age, and her talent apparently runs from her parents.
Really
My mother.
Your mother.
My mother. She's pushed me into it. She was a pianist, and my father was an architect in New York. And so I had
natural talent there.
It's in my blood.
I guess it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's a great story. So how early were you making art at home?
Well, I think I really blossomed forth more when I was about 70 years old. So, but I've been teaching and working with art for years up in Vermont. 25 years up in Vermont. I have 2 kids that were born in Vermont. So.
A teacher as well as a painter, Campbell has taught visual arts to all ages and in most mediums for the Burlington Parks and Recreation Department in Vermont for 10 years. Since moving to North Carolina, she's taught at the Sandhills Community College in Pinehurst since 1986 and again has reached all skill levels.
All ages. Right now, for the last number of years, it's been adults.
Uh-huh.
My peers.
Your peers.
Yeah, yes.
So how did this New Englander end up in North Carolina?
My husband.
Your husband.
Golf.
Oh.
Sailing.
Okay.
Yeah, everything that he wanted to do after he retired.
Well, God bless you.
Yeah, that's how I got to North Carolina, and I'm going to be here for life.
Good.
I'm not going anywhere.
Good.
Campbell described to Strevig a particular painting she created of Emerald Isle at the North Carolina coast.
But they're all, I work from my own photographs, and the work has to be original. Nothing's been copied.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I did recently, and it bothered me. I had a contract to copy from a photo in Venice. The waterway with the boats and everything. I managed to do it. But I used to work with graphics, and going in Pratt, being part of Pratt's illustration course and everything.
She also talked with Strevig about a piece called Alone on what looks like crinkled paper.
North Carolina, 7 Lakes, west side, and it's Lake Almond. And it was just a small tree that I saw off of Lake Almond back in here. And it's done on rice paper.
We'd like to thank everyone who comes out to support these artists and Clayton Visual Arts. Again, these receptions and art exhibits are free every month. Come by any time and enjoy the art. The Clayton Center is part of Town Hall and open all week and most evenings at 111 East 2nd Street, just off Main Street. Clayton Visual Arts Incorporated is an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization supported in part by the Town of Clayton Cultural Arts Fund. Learn more at claytonvisualartsnc.org and look out for more information on the fantastic upcoming Millstock Arts Festival in downtown Clayton, June 1st.